123.
Mr. Speaker.
Senator Argan, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, I would like to thank you and Madam Speaker and all of our colleagues for having the placement of the following bills 123 and 126. But we are discussing Bill 123, that's 33 right now, and this is relative to expanding the powers of the magistrate judge. And just for the information, as a caveat first, before I highlight some of the expanded authority that will be provided by this legislation should it pass, that this was a request by the Judiciary of Guam Judicial Council by the Chief Justice. And yes, Mr. Speaker, let me step back a second and move for the placement of Bill number 123-33 COR in the third reading for consideration by the body.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Now, go ahead and speak on 123. Well, no, on the placement into third with the ability to speak, yes, you may. Okay,
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just for the information of the public and also for our fellow colleagues, just to highlight the expanded responsibilities. As we all know, the Judiciary of Guam is provided an opportunity to be able to hire a magistrate judge, of which that position is presently filled. And one of the challenges that the trial judges face on a regular basis is really the overcrowding of their docket and their schedule. So in order to try to assist in alleviating some of this overcrowding and ensure that the process moves a lot more quickly and more efficiently, they have requested that the legislature consider the content contained in Bill 123. And for the public's consumption, it would expand the magistrate judge's responsibilities to include the following: conduct criminal trial setting hearings, preside over preliminary hearings in criminal cases, and render decisions and judgments over procedural and discovery motions in criminal matters, preside over initial scheduling conferences in civil matters, to include but not limited to initial pre-trial conferences, case scheduling, discovery disputes, motions, and settlement efforts. Also to preside over unlawful detainer proceedings. And then finally, the final statement or expanded authority would be, notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary, upon the consent of the parties and when specifically designated by the Chief Justice to exercise such jurisdiction, conduct any and all proceedings in a jury or non-jury civil trial or criminal misdemeanor trial, and order the entry of judgment in such case. So this, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request the consideration of our colleagues and yourself, and I move for its placement in third reading. Thank you.
Any senator wish to be heard on this bill? On Bill 123 on the main motion? Senator Blas?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, you know, I recognize the bill was actually as a result of a request from the judiciary. And going along through the whole thing, I felt, okay, yeah, that's good. Yes, that's good. I can agree with that. And when we get to the last one, I'm like, well, what then separates the magistrate from the judge? And quite honestly, sir, I look to you in your infinite wisdom, and I'm going to ask for a recess so that I can consult with you on a little bit of a matter, on this matter. So can I ask for a 30-second recess?
Recess granted.
Bro.
We're back on the record. Senator Blas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that recess and allowing me to be able to just learn a little bit more for my edification with regards to this concern. And really, it goes back to my initial concern, sir, about the 13 previous, I guess, functions of the magistrate, or something that actually sits well with me, sits okay. When it got to the 14th, then I saw that this is possibly not just an expansion of the magistrate, but now the new definition of a judge. And I think that for the purposes of wanting to make sure that there's that distinction between the two offices and the two officers of the court, I moved to delete subsection 14 or subsection 14, found on page 3, starting on line 5. So it's deleting line 5 through line 9.
On that motion, Senator Torres, you're recognized.
I would suggest that it's not necessary to delete that last provision. When you consider that the law already provides for magistrate judges to be appointed pro tem judges, they're already exercising, some degree of, already exercising that degree of authority when they're appointed. So, the idea of them having some powers, I think I don't know that it's so necessary that we delete that, because I think that they already have a lot of authority in predispositional matters, and since they are already allowed to facilitate as judges and serve on a pro tem basis when they're appointed, I think that this just gives them that blanket as opposed to having to go through the exercise of having to be appointed on an as-needed basis. So my position would be that it just makes it facilitates the judicial process if we just include this in their duties and their powers. So I would say that it's a good thing to keep in there among the other expanded powers.
Is the chair to understand you're objecting to the removal, or you're just stating your concern?
I'm objecting to the removal.
Okay. There has been an objection. Anybody else wish to be heard on the Bloss amendment? On the Senator Bloss amendment? All right. Any other senator wish to be heard on the Bloss amendment? Should I take a recess, Senator? Recess. Legislature's back in session. On the Bloss Amendment, there's been an objection. All those in favor of the Bloss Amendment, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes. 14 is deleted. Senator Uggan. Any objection to sending the bill down to the voting file? Thank you. Bill 126-33, Senator Frank Uggan.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to yourself and to our colleagues for placing this particular matter on the agenda for this session. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move for the placement of Bill number 126-33 COR into the third reading file for consideration by the body.
Any objection to placing this in the third reading file for discussion? Senator, you want to speak on it at least?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I think the proposed legislation certainly is self-explanatory. It would be relative to authorizing Government of Guam employees to join the Volunteer Deputy Marshal Reserve Program. And, Mr. Speaker, there's a line that in the existing code that does restrict any public employees or government employees outside of, on a full-time basis, from joining this particular reserve program. So we are just deleting that one line on line 14 and 15. It would be deleted, which reads, no full-time employee of the Government of Guam shall be eligible for the program, and allow for a wider pool of possible applicants and individuals who would like to serve in this capacity. So I ask, Mr. Speaker, for your support and the support of our colleagues. Thank you.
Any senator wish to be heard on Bill 126? Any senator wish to be heard on Bill 126? Senator Espaldon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may, I just want to have a better understanding of this, and if I could just ask the author of this measure if he would consider answering a question. And that is, I can understand why there was language in the past to say no full-time employee of the Government of Guam shall be eligible for the program, because it seems to me that if you're going to ask for volunteers to be a deputy marshal, a lot of times that happens. A lot of the needs are probably during the day. I'm not sure. I mean, why are we allowing just anybody, including Government Guam employees who might have a regular job within the government, 8 to 5, and then say, well, okay, you can also be a volunteer in the marshal? What exactly are the positions for?
Do you wish to yield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the senator certainly for asking that question. Mr. Speaker, there's a volunteer deputy marshal program, reserve program, that already the authorization has been provided to the Judiciary of Guam. They do not have any individuals within that program yet, but when they went through, when I say they, when the Judiciary, this is another proposal that was forwarded to my office from the Judiciary, asking that this body consider, because they wanted to ensure that there's a wider pool of eligible applicants, also to be inclusive of other Government of Guam employees. And why this restriction was initially incorporated there, I'm not too sure. I do know, Mr. Speaker, that at a function that was held very recently during the course of a weekend, there were still some court activities taking place. And perhaps, if the question is, if most of the court activities take place between 8 and 5, why would you need this reserve program during the course of the week? But I do know of some activities that take place during the weekends, and perhaps the Marshal program may use this, and I'm not going to speak on their behalf, but the understanding is that this program will be able to augment their personnel support should there be a need.
Is that satisfactory, Senator?
I'll accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard on Bill 126? Senator Bloss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of the legislation. Just a little bit more of a clarification. because I've had the opportunity to be able to work with these fine, with this fine organization. There are instances where, as far as a lot of people take the marshal program, or the marshal's responsibility is basically when the court is open. The marshal's responsibility is basically a 24/7 type operation, quite honestly. They have gotten the responsibility of basically the judicious side of the enforcement when it comes to public safety. And so, to answer the question and concern with regards to when then does a government employee, when will they have the ability to be able to volunteer for the service? There are, in a number of cases, off-duty or activities that occur beyond, the 5 p.m. And most certainly, activities that occur during the weekend. It stumps me when I saw the legislation. I apologize. I was under the assumption that there was a reciprocation between the executive and the judicial branch, in that in the police reserve you have marshals that are able to that are police reservists. And so I thought there was that reciprocation that existed between the judiciary and the executive branch, and that the executive branch government employees would be allowed to be marshals. I thank the good author for being able to move on this type of legislation. It just helps to build basically a stronger marshal team. And so for that, I do support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Any other senator wish to be heard on 126? If not, on the motion to send it to the voting file, there being no objection. We have two more bills left on the agenda, and they may take a little time. If I can have the indulgence of the two senators that have that, can we do that in the morning? I know that a couple of our colleagues have a 3 o'clock, and I really, it's going to be, we'll recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.